by Dr. Raymond Taylor. The Gospel of John, chapters 15 through 17, are often described as the farewell discourse, a long final speech in which Jesus comforts his disciples before his death. It is intimate, poetic, and mystical, filled with imagery of unity, love, and continuity. Yet buried within that poetic language are symbols that do not originate in Jewish or Greek thought. The vine, the branches, the flowing life, and the fusion of water and blood all trace back to Mandaean cosmology. What modern readers interpret as allegory was once the vocabulary of living ritual. When Jesus says, "I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener," he speaks in the language of the Mandaeans. Their texts are filled with hymns to the Tree of Life, the eternal vine whose roots drink from the living water of the great life. The trunk represents the eternal revealer, the branches are the faithful souls, and the fruit is the light that grows from union with the current. The tree is not a metaphor for organization or morality. It is the living structure of reality. All creation hangs upon it. The Mandaeans call this tree the Shatran, or tree of radiance. It grows in the world of light, and its reflection stretches down into the material world through the baptismal current. In that cosmology, John the Baptist is the trunk, the living conduit of the great life. The faithful who undergo baptism are the branches that grow from him, nourished by the living current. When Jesus borrows that image and applies it to himself, the shift is not theological invention, but redirection. The gospel writer takes a well-known Mandaean symbol and centers it upon a single figure, transforming communal mysticism into personal saviorhood. The act is not original, but adaptive. It is the theological equivalent of grafting one vine onto another. The phrase, "apart from me you can do nothing," reads differently when placed in this context. It echoes the Mandaean refrain that the branches cannot live without the trunk of the tree of life, which channels the energy of the great life into the world below. In the Mandaean Rite, this energy is transmitted through water, not doctrine. Baptism connects the soul to the living current that flows through the cosmic tree. The vine metaphor in John's Gospel thus preserves the same ritual structure, connection, flow, nourishment, and unity. The difference lies only in the substitution of character. The discourse continues in chapters 16 and 17 with imagery of oneness and glory. "I have given them the glory you gave me, that they may be one as we are one." This oneness is not symbolic unity, but mystical fusion. In the Mandaean Masbuta, the priest declares that those who rise from the water are one in light, one in life, and one in the great name. The goal of baptism is the reintegration of all souls into the original body of light. The Gospel of John transposes this concept into the language of prayer, transforming liturgical chant into theology. The meaning remains the same. Then comes chapter 19, where the Roman soldier pierces Jesus' side, and out flows blood and water. Centuries of Christian interpretation have treated this as the dual symbol of Eucharist and baptism, a poetic image of salvation through sacrifice. But the symbol predates that explanation. In Mandaean ritual, the mixing of water and a trace of sacrificial essence marks the union of material and spiritual. The priest pours both into the baptismal vessel, invoking the fusion of soul and light. The joining of water and blood is not a coincidence. It is the literal act that completes the transformation of body into spirit. E. S. Drower, in the Canonical Prayer Book of the Mandaeans, Oxford University Press, 1959, records repeated references to the mingled waters and the red flow that carries the soul upward. The two substances represent different aspects of life, water as spirit and blood as breath. When they meet, the soul is said to awaken. The Gospel preserves this exact image but translates it into a narrative of crucifixion. Pilate's order to pierce Jesus becomes the priestly motion that releases the elements. What the Mandaean Rite enacts symbolically, the Gospel dramatizes as history. The phrase "it is finished" that follows the piercing reads as a conclusion to the ritual. In Mandaean initiation, The priest closes each rite with a declaration of completion, sealing the act with prayer. "It is finished" is not resignation. It is liturgical finality. The current has run its course. The Spirit has been released. This reinterpretation of John's farewell discourse and crucifixion scene does not diminish the text. It enriches it. It shows that the Gospel's imagery was not spontaneous revelation, but the careful adaptation of an existing ritual language. The vine and branches belong to the cosmic tree of the Mandaeans. The unity of glory belongs to their baptismal fusion. The water and blood belong to their rite of transformation. Together they form a coherent structure, not a collage of random metaphors. Joran Buckley in the Mandaeans, Ancient Texts and Modern People, Oxford University Press, 2002, notes that Mandaean prayers often use the exact formula found in John's Gospel. The great life gives glory, the branches receive, and the name unites them. The rhythm and theology are identical. What the Mandaeans perform at dawn, the Gospel writer encodes into narrative form. The difference lies in the politics of the late 1st century. Around 90 AD, when the Gospel of John likely reached its final form, the Mandaeans were viewed as heretical, and Roman authorities were suppressing any movements that traced themselves to John the Baptist. By redefining the imagery of the river as a theology of the Son, the Gospel's author made the tradition safe for a Greco-Roman audience. The tree became the cross. The current became grace. The priest became Savior. What had once been a rite of continual renewal was turned into a single, irreversible event. Yet the residue of the older language remains. Every time the Gospel speaks of life, flow, or unity, the voice of the river echoes underneath. The vine still drips with the current of the great life. The branches still reach upward through the same light. And when blood and water mix at the end, the river rises again through the story, carrying the pearl back to its source. The farewell discourse is not farewell at all. It is preservation. It is the last echo of a river religion clothed in imperial theology. Beneath the language of Father and Son, one can still hear the sound of flowing water, the whisper of the great life, and the memory of those who never stopped baptizing at dawn. Veritas lux mea. Veritas lux